Hey everyone, this is Ruan. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be making some content that I often get asked about, which is how we leverage AI in our workflows. As you probably are aware of, if you haven't been living under a rock, ChatGPT has literally transformed our workflow. And I did a Duda webinar a couple of months ago during DudaCon. This was in September, where I shared some of these practical strategies on the webinar. But I figured I would make an in-depth video today so you can be ahead of the game when it comes to using ChatGPT and OpenAI. Now, after watching this video, by the end, I can confidently say you will be at the top 1% of the people that understand how to utilize this tool to save yourself time and money, and also save your clients time and money as well. So today we're going to be covering a couple of key concepts. Those are 1, utilizing OpenAI's API, 2, utilizing custom GPTs the right way, 3, automating things like email responses, 4, automating things like lead responses, and 5, using AI for data analysis and analytics, all things of which we are excited about. So let's get started with the API so I can give you a clear understanding of how we're going to utilize this for today's video. So the OpenAI API is a tool that everyone can use. You simply just have to go to platform.openai.com and create an account. So for a lot of the things that we're going to be doing, we're going to be utilizing something called Zapier, which is a tool that allows two softwares to communicate with each other to streamline workflows. So to create an assistant, what you're going to do is you're going to log in. Inside of this, there's a lot of different things that you can start to play with. If you're an engineer, there's the developer platform. But in this case, we're going to head over to something called assistants. And assistants are going to be really cool playgrounds where we're going to use to create an assistant that's going to allow us to automate a lot of tasks. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new assistant. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and name the assistant Develomark. And then I'm going to give the assistant some instructions. In this case, I'm going to use something called context, role, and task, which is what we use to prompt AIs to get a better result. Over here, you can actually open this up so you can put in more information, but I'm going to go ahead and put in this information now so you can see what this looks like. So here are my system instructions. The context is that they are a sales representative at Develomark. The role is they are providing professional prompt replies to ensure response times are higher than average while keeping the information accurate. And the task is to speak as the tone of me, a digital strategist at Develomark, helping clients with their SEO and SEM strategy. So once I have the system instructions, I can go ahead and save. And now you can see that anytime I use this assistant, it's going to have these instructions already created for me. Then I can go ahead and configure the model. Personally speaking, I like using ChatGPT 4o Mini. The reason for that is because if you're using the API, you're going to have to pay every time it runs a scan or every time it creates an output. They call these tokens. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and use Mini. It's the model that's cheaper. I can add file search, code interpreter. I can change the response times. I can change the temperature. All of these kinds of things I can do so. But in this case, I don't really need to do that. My GPT instructions has already been created. And now I can start to utilize my assistant in third-party applications. If you click Playground, you can actually start to play with this to see how it would respond. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like with a new lead that came in for our company. So now what I'm going to do to test my assistant and to see how it would respond, I'm going to go ahead and put in a lead that came in, and then I'm going to say decline this lead politely. Now, when you do this, it's going to allow you to play with your assistant directly inside of Playground so you can see an example of how it would respond using your actual system instructions. So you can see it's going to go ahead and provide that decline, and then I'm comfortable with the way this is outputting. So when I start automating things, it's going to utilize a similar context to this. If you're going to do a lot of automations, I recommend you play a lot with this assistant and you play a lot with the Playground so it has the messaging and the wording of exactly how you want it to sound, and or remove words, emojis, adjectives, make it objective. Those are system instructions that I always put in for a given assistant because I don't like when ChatGPT overall tries to oversell things. It makes things sound like they're way too good to be true. And so I like keeping it simple and concise, especially when I'm doing automations. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you create a custom assistant. Now, anytime we run an automation, it's going to use that custom assistant's instructions that we gave it. So you're going to want to set up assistants for every single role that you're trying to automate. In this case, it's a simple assistant that can automate my responses, and I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. But before we continue, there's an important part of the overall AI strategy, and that's creating a custom GPT. Custom GPTs are good for multiple things. Mainly, the value we've seen is sharing them between our teams so we can all access the correct information. So I'm going to create a custom GPT with you. I'm going to show you how we prompt it. I'm going to show you the data that we give it, and then I'm going to show you how we share it with our team. So let's jump into it. So once you're in a ChatGPT account, ideally it's a paid one using the Pro plan, you're going to be able to visit the GPT store. And the way the GPTs work is they are just custom assistants without having to use the API. The APIs are going to be useful for when we do automations, but GPTs can be useful too for just creating one that your team or yourself can share. For example, you can search the GPT store and find different GPTs. You can see that we create a bunch of them for different use cases. I have my own that basically talks about my tones, beliefs, and ideas. We have Splashdsh, which is an AI analytics platform that we use. And then we have Client Update GPT, which is a format in a way where we put information in here and then it formats in an easy to read way for the client to see. So when we create a GPT, the first thing is that's going to pop up is almost like that playground that we were just looking at. It's going to give you a couple of things that you can do. One is you can name your GPT, you can add a description, you can add instructions, and you can have conversation starters. Similar with the API, you can turn on web search, you can turn on DALL-E, you can turn on code interpreter. For this case though, I'm gonna make it pretty straightforward and I'm gonna make it pretty easy. I'm gonna create a GPT for a client that we're working with right now so you can clearly understand how this can be useful for us. And I'm gonna do it in the quickest way possible. So first and foremost, I'm gonna go ahead and click on upload photo. First thing I wanna do is I want to add a little photo because on the right side here, you'll see that there's just a cube. And if we wanna have a custom branded GPT, we're gonna wanna add a photo. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'm gonna open up is a simple Canva, and I will just go to my uploads and I'll just search the logo for the client we're gonna be creating this for. In this case, it's a law firm, so I'll go ahead and put that logo there. And then I will go ahead and exit out of this, title this, let's say BBB Attorneys, and then I will click share, download, and remember, this needs to be at least 500 pixels by 500, the average logo size when you're working with any type of platform. Going back into GPT, I'll upload the photo, I'll copy that in there, and now you can see that my AI has a custom image. So if I share it, people can actually see that. Then I'm gonna go ahead and name this GPT. I'm gonna add a description, and then I'm gonna add instructions. The instructions are gonna be just like the instructions that you gave the API, but in this case, this is going to be for a front end, not for a back end. We can utilize this without having access to any of OpenAI's APIs. Now, anytime we work with a client, we utilize something called a creative brief. And what this creative brief allows us to do is it allows us to clearly understand what the role of the project is. So I'm gonna take really the most important parts of this creative brief and paste it into the GPT instructions, just so the AI has a clear understanding of what we're looking to accomplish when it comes to this project. And now my instructions are there. And now I can add conversation starters. So now you can see I have some conversation starters, and I really like adding these because it allows me to quickly test the validity of the custom GPT. So if I clicked on who is Marianne Bowman, which is the attorney that's going to be working on this project, or the one that's going to be providing the services under this firm, you can see that it's accurately picking up her information directly inside of here, and that's picking up the information directly from the instructions. So what does this GPT do? Well, it acts like a personalized assistant for this section of the brand. There's also really cool ways that you can add other instructions, right? Like avoiding unusual styles and quirks, bolding things, etc. One of my favorites is to really stick away from adjectives and be objective with the information, because I don't like the adjectives. I hate it. I can't stand it. I hate when ChatGPT tries to make things sound a lot better than what they actually are. So I really try to just go ahead and prompt it to avoid any adjectives or emojis. Once your GPT is done, what you can now do is you can go over to the 3 buttons. If you're not satisfied, you can delete it. You can still play with the different prompting instructions here. For example, what services? You can go ahead and test it and make sure that it looks good before you actually release it and share it with other people. But if you put in a healthy amount of instructions, if you spent the time doing the work to pre-prompt, you're going to go ahead and have one that's super accurate. A lot of the things that we do is spent on pre-prompting because once we pre-prompt, it has a lot of information that the brand already needs to know, etc. So now what I can do is I can click create. I can only me make it private. Anyone with a link for us, this is the preferred one because we share it with our team. Or I can go ahead and publish it to the GPT store so that people can start playing with your GPT even if they don't have the link and it's searchable. For clients, we always do anyone with a link. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now what's going to happen is OpenAI is going to give me a shareable link with the GPT that I've created that when anyone on my team or anyone with the link clicks on this, they can now access the GPT directly without having access to anything. The beauty of this is as we update this GPT with information, and I will show you how you can do this with custom instructions in the later section of this video, it's going to dynamically update it for everyone. So in the near future, I really see a business model where people are managing AIs for other people. That is something that I've thought about doing, but ultimately I don't want to do something that OpenAI is already doing. So that's how you create a custom GPT. And now we're going to move on to actually starting to do some automations with your custom API, utilizing your custom GPT to give the accurate response that you always want to give pretty much every time an automation happens. All right, you are now prepared to start creating custom GPTs for every different type of workflow in your business or brand or for your clients, etc. We're now going to work on our first automation, which is a simple way for you to see how this methodology is going to work for you. We're going to set up a system where every time a review comes in, GPT automatically responds to that review and then publishes it directly on your Google Business Profile or your client's Google Business Profile. So a Zapier account is going to be required to do this so the two things can talk to each other. Let's get into it. So once I'm in Zapier, and if you're not familiar with what Zapier is it is a tool that allows you to automate different software solutions based on a trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Zap. I've gone ahead and created this little folder for you guys so that I can show you almost like a playground. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the trigger. The trigger is going to be what's going to start this automation, and then we're going to use ChatGPT to contextualize the automation. So I will go ahead and type in Google Business, and that's going to allow me to pick something that's going to be a trigger. In this case, it's going to be a new review. So anytime we get a new review, I can do an automation. Things like send an email, things like write a response. So now I'm going to select an account. In this case, I'll just use our normal Develomark account. I'll choose the account I want to use, Develomark, and then I will pick the location. Since I'm setting this up for our own business to show you for testing purposes, I'm going to go ahead and click on Develomark. Now, at the end of this, you're going to figure out how every time someone gets a review, in this case, this is one of our clients, a response happens. Another review came in, a response happened. Another review came in, a response happened. So this is all happening automatically because we're using their OpenAI assistant to automate this. So let's get back into Zapier so I can show you how this works. So now I'm going to click on continue and I'm going to test my trigger. The trigger is going to pull in a recent review that we got, as you can see, review C, and you can see the contents of it. Excellent team to work with, experts in what they do in Excel, far beyond what is asked. Now I'm going to continue, and my next step is going to be to utilize ChatGPT as a Zap. So inside of ChatGPT, I can choose an event, which is going to be conversations, which is really creating a conversation with an assistant. You can see this step. So when we get a Google review, ChatGPT is going to start a conversation with my assistant to generate a response. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue. And you can see I can pick the assistant from here. This is the assistant that we created at the beginning of the video, so I don't have to prompt it too much to give it the response that we're looking for. So now that I've picked my assistant, I don't have to type in things like assistant name or instructions because that's all pre-baked into the Develomark assistant. Now up top, the message that I'm going to use is I'm going to add the comment, and then I'm going to write in instructions for this, utilizing the same approach that I mentioned before to prompt it as well. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll share with you what I came up with. Okay, so here's what I have. The context is Develomark is an online business that gets reviews. The role is you are to respond to the reviews in a positive manner, in keeping empathy and enthusiasm, regardless if it's negative or positive. And then based on the average star rating, in this case it's a 1, and this is a dynamic field, so it'll change as we continue to get reviews to truly make it automatic. If it's a 3 to 5, good. Below a 3 is not good. Write a reply that's personalized, and if there is no comment, feel free to just reply thank you. So what this is saying is it's going to take every single review that comes in and personalize a response based on the comment and the average star rating that that review got. So let's go ahead and pick our model. Again, we chose the Model 4.0 Mini, and then down below, you can just go ahead and click on Continue. So now that you have the instructions here, My Assistant ID, which we created, the message here, and what I'm gonna prompt with, and the model are clear. So now what I can do is I can test this step. And what's gonna happen is OpenAI is gonna create an API call with the account that we created a little earlier today, and then it's gonna take the review and write a response. So that response, as you can see down here, is thank you for your positive feedback. We appreciate your trust in our team. It's great to hear our expertise has made a difference in your experience. If you have any further questions or need assistance, feel free to reach out. So that's a pretty good response. Whatever your goal is, you now have the power to do that directly inside of your Zapier. The next step I'm gonna do is I'm going to click on a wait feature. So I'm gonna choose the delay function, and then in that delay function, I'm gonna click delay for, and then it'll allow me to put in a time for me to delay for. And so I can just put in something like 6 hours, and then the units will be 6. I could take out the hours. And now it's going to basically delay the response for 6 hours. Now I can go ahead and publish this. I can now click on add step, and my last step here will be to go ahead and click the Google profile, and then I can click on create a reply. I can continue. I can pick on review name. I can click on that, that's the name. And then the reply, I can go ahead and click this. I can click on the GPT itself, and then I can go ahead and click on the full response. So once that's all set, I can test this. Now every time a review comes in, a Google Business Profile reply is created, and the reply responds with generative text that is customized and personalized each and every time. All right, so let's look at the real live listing. You can see that this was the user's comment, and this was the reply that went directly onto the listing on my Google Business Profile. I can edit this if I wanted to change it and personalize it even more. I can delete it, or I could just leave it as is and let the automations do what it's gotta do. Okay, now I know your brain is coming up with fantastic ideas that are gonna allow you to save time. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to automate email replies. Now, whenever it comes to artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and the things I'm showing you right now, I always like to play it safe. So for this automation, I'm gonna show you how when you get an email to draft a reply with AI and saved it in your draft so you can edit it for the near future if you wanna send it. You can set this to automatically send. Of course, you have the creative ability of setting this to however you want, but I found it best to let it live in draft and then make edits as you see fit. So let's get into that one in our next automation, which is email drafts. Okay guys, so back into Zapier, same process here. I'm gonna click on create a new Zap. Now, instead of a GBP, Google Business Profile trigger, I'm gonna go ahead and click on a Gmail trigger. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to utilize my Gmail account, which is Google Workspace. Develomark uses Google Workspace to manage their email. And the trigger event is going to be either a new label or a new starred email. Keep in mind, you can get very advanced with this. If you wanted to create new assistants for new types of labels, you can do that. And then the assistant will reply to the email depending on the label. But for ease of use and just so you don't die watching this video of boredom, I'm going to go ahead and click on new starred email. So what this is saying is each and every single time an email, let's say in my personal email, gets starred, OpenAI is going to write a response to the email based on the copy of that email. So I'm going to go ahead and click on continue. I'm going to test that trigger. So Zapier is going to find an email that I've recently starred, and then it's going to pull in a few different example records. You're seeing an example that I put in, which is the email with the body copy of somebody who has questions about SEO, curious about how long it takes to rank on Google, curious about tracking their positions over time, asking if backlinks still work, how much content they need, etc. Pretty common questions that I answer on a regular basis. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with email D. And now every time an email is starred, I can now prompt ChatGPT, very similar to what I showed you before. So in this time, I'm going to go ahead and use the action of having a conversation with the assistant like we did before. I'm going to go ahead and pick the same assistant that I chose before, the Develomark one. And now in the message, instead of putting the review, I can go ahead and pick the body that that person wrote to me. or in essence, the body of the email that was starred. So every time a new email is starred, it's going to run this automation, call the API on your OpenAI account, and then respond to it however you see fit. So with the similar format, I'm going to go ahead and do our context role and task. I'm going to go ahead and write this, and I'll show you what I came up with. Okay, so here's what I got. So I have the context, which is I get a lot of emails. The role, use my tone of voice. The task, take the body of the email and provide a no adjective, no BS email, answering questions, providing them with guidance. I'm gonna go ahead and choose my model. In this case, I'm gonna choose 4.0 mini, and then I'm gonna go ahead and test this. Again, when I test this, just like with the review response, I'm gonna be able to see how OpenAI handled this new starred email that I got. That comes in from the outside world of people asking me questions through email because I make my email publicly available. Here's the response I got. Thank you for question regarding SEO. It addressed the person, and then it responded to those inquiries pretty nicely. And then it even offered if they wanted a website audit, which is our main call to action. So that looks good to me. So once my AI is in check, I'm gonna click on another step. I'm gonna use the Gmail function, and I'm going to go ahead and use create draft. I'm gonna continue. The to, which is the person I'm gonna be sending this email to, is going to be the original person that sent me an email. And then I can go ahead and pick the subject line. In this case, I can go ahead and have AI write a subject line, or I can put in a subject line. For time's sake, I'm just gonna write a basic subject line, which will just let's say reply. And then the from name, I'll use my name, Ruan Marinho. And then in the body text, I will go ahead and pull that conversation with the Assistance API, giving it that full response. So once that's all set, I'm gonna go ahead and test this step. But just to recap, it's gonna send an email back to the person. It's gonna provide a subject line. It's going to give the from name, which is from me, and then it's going to put that text inside of the body. So I'm going to go ahead and test that step, and then you're going to see how this is going to look like in our draft inside of our Gmail account. Ideally, at this point, you copy edit that, and then you send it off. Try not to have these things automatically go off because it is not perfect. AI is something that you should always experiment with. All right, guys, so I'm in my email, and you can see I have one draft. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to open up that email exactly as I saw it. It's replying to the right person. It put in a subject line, and then it's saying, hi, Jonathan, thank you for your questions regarding SEO. It's adding all of that checklist, and it looks pretty good. So at this point, what I would do is I might edit it a tiny bit and then send it off, double check it for any errors, double check it for any syntax errors, make sure it makes sense, add stuff to it, attach things to it. But ultimately, this looks good to go, and now I can send this off. So that's in essence how you can automate your emails utilizing labels in Gmail and your new OpenAI integration. Now that you're getting a gist of how the email can work with automation, I want to add in one more simple workflow here that can really help you if you're getting form submissions. So let's go ahead and create a news app. I'm going to use the Gmail again, but this time my trigger is actually going to be a form response. So I'm going to go ahead and choose type form because that's where we gather form responses at Develomark. The trigger event is going to be a new entry. And then the account I'm going to pick is going to be our company account. So once you're doing that, I can pick a form. So I'm going to go ahead and pick on the Develomark online intake form. This is the form that people fill out when they're looking to work with us. And then I'm going to go ahead and test that trigger. So every time a form submission comes in, we can clearly see the information that came in from that potential lead directly on our website. Now I'm going to continue. I'm going to do the same process where I'm going to pick ChatGPT. I'm going to go ahead and choose the action, which is conversation with assistant. And then I'm going to go ahead and gather the message. In this case, I'm going to gather what that person said in their form response. As you can see, the full form response is there. And then I'm going to prompt it using the context, role, and task to actually get AI to respond and put in my draft when a new lead inquires. So once I've prompted, you can see my context is that we get sales leads online. The role is they're a salesperson and they're looking to book qualified appointments. And the task is to draft a personalized email response addressing them by their personalization rules, reiterating their goals, and encouraging them to set up a meeting to do an audit. So again, I'm going to pick the assistant that we created at the beginning of this video to remain consistent with the messaging. I'm going to pick our model, GPT-4o Mini. It's the cheapest and the fastest. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on test step. So like the Gmail favoriting or the stars or the labeling that I showed you before, The only thing that's changing here is we are getting an entry from a form submission. So now I'm gonna go ahead and click on new step. This will be the final step. It'll be Gmail. And this final step will be to create in a draft, just like we did before, using the same account we did before, which is my email account from my email address. The two, I'm going to go ahead and map that to the entry of the email address of the person that inquired. So I can see that that's there. The subject line, I can take it and personalize it by using their business name, and then I can say reply or something along those lines. And then the from name, I can put it as Ruan Marinho to keep it personalized as I did before. And then the body context will be the actual conversation with the assistants, the full response, and then I will go ahead and test that. So to recap, I'm getting an entry from Typeform. This is a sales lead. ChatGPT is using my assistant to communicate with this person by adding an email reply, and that reply is going directly inside of my drafts. I don't want to send it automatically because I'm interested in seeing what the AI said and how it presented its data. Very useful if you're doing sales, because this is going to allow you to draft replies and work on your response time pretty quickly. As I refresh this page, I can click this, and now you can see that I have a response going to the potential lead. The subject line, I can remove this as that is not important, and then it will allow me to write something that's personalized and respond back to them as I see fit. And every single time a lead comes in, this body text will personalize itself using artificial intelligence, depending on what that person said in the form submission. So again, another cool way to leverage email by using a trigger. In this case, instead of it being a star or a label, it's a form submission. If I were doing this from scratch, starting right now, the first thing I would do is I would take this to the businesses that I'm working with and offer them value, or do it for my own business or do it for my own brand and put this into your offerings. That's what I encourage you to do with this level of information. So now I'm going to show you how to utilize data analytics inside of ChatGPT and inside of a bunch of various other tools that you can utilize that'll allow you to pull in data from different places directly inside of ChatGPT, but also utilize an analytics platform that we're working on called Splashdsh that allows you to get data using AI and visualize it directly inside of a dashboard that's perfect for sharing with clients, etc. So let's get to the last step, which is data analytics utilizing artificial intelligence. Okay, so now that I'm in ChatGPT 4.0, I can change the model if I see fit. I'm gonna stay with 4.0, it's the easiest one for most tasks. And then I'm gonna go ahead and show you how this can utilize data from outside places to enhance your prompt engineering. And then I'm gonna show you how we utilize a front-end platform called Splashdsh to utilize data analytics powered by AI. The first thing I wanted to show you is in ChatGPT, you can use the function to call upon different GPTs. So for example, I can call upon our page insights, which is going to allow us to scan a web URL and tell us exactly what that page is about. For example, scan the contents of this website. And now what GPT is going to do is it's going to run an API call, and it's going to actually access that website and give me that data back directly inside of my front end. This is going to allow me to do an excessive amount of work in a short period of time. So now you're going to see that GPT can now access a website and give me information that I need to know about that website directly inside of the chat interface. This is really helpful because you can utilize different integrations to really amp up your workflow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call on the search, and I'm going to show you how this can work with YouTube videos as well. So Splashdsh has the search function, which will allow you to watch a YouTube video in OpenAI and then respond with a transcript or insights of that video. So I'll give you an example and you'll see how this looks. So you can see what I've done is I've called on a different integration and I told it to analyze this video and provide me with a transcript of what the video is about and provide it in a bulleted list format. I'm going to click on the confirm button. The Splashdsh API is going to talk directly to that YouTube video. It's going to provide me with a transcript, its information, and all of the things that I should know without even having to watch the video. And it's going to give me the data on the video as well. So I can do this pretty much unlimited with as many videos as I want, as many websites as I want, and that's going to help me continue to ultimately prompt engineer a perfect solution, which is not normally available directly in ChatGPT. Okay, so now I want to showcase to you what something like this would look like on the front end. Splashdsh is an AI application that we're working on that allows users to pull data from multiple sources and utilize OpenAI's technology to analyze that data and put it into a meaningful marketing report that you can share with your clients. So I'm going to demonstrate our sentiment analysis feature, and this is an action. And if you're in the beta test, you should go on the beta test. It's free to sign up. We're releasing actions every single week. So I'm going to show you what sentiment analysis does. I can type in a keyword, and that could be dentist, and I can type in a location, and that could be Southington, Connecticut. And what this is going to do is it's going to crawl all of the different dentists in that area. It's going to leverage OpenAI's API to provide meaningful insights on what it found and put it all together in a beautifully designed front end. Now keep in mind, every time we run an action, the data is unique depending on the data that you need and your input, because OpenAI allows for personalization and Splashdot crawls the internet to do these kinds of things. So when you run the action, it'll get the report ready for you. It should show up relatively quickly. And for this action, it's showing some basic things. It's basically showing you how people feel about dentists in this area. For me, for marketing purposes, I would use this to create different adverts. I would use this to enhance my SEO strategy. I would use this to tell our clients what people think are important. And I can save this by copying the terms or downloading a CSV, or I can go ahead and play and do some research directly inside here to find what people like and don't like. Now, with every report on Splashdot, it shows you where it got that data. So these are the businesses that it directly got that information from. And if I wanted to drill down on this example, I can. And you can see how at the end, Splashdot puts together an AI report that you can leverage and send to your clients. So as we're building this tool, we are consistently adding more and more actions to make the system more and more whole, and that ultimately is going to allow for the platform to continue expanding as we keep iterating and investing in AI technology. And there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was a blast to show you all of these different things that you can utilize AI for. If you have comments or questions or want me to drill down deeper on a certain topic that I covered, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.